Welcome, everybody. I hope you are well. Apologies for starting so late today. Trust me, it's worth it. We're in Nashville, and I just need to give you a caveat. The Wi-Fi has been spanking us in a bad way. Not the fun way, in the bad way, where it doesn't want to work very well. We tried to pick a hotel that said it had good Wi-Fi. This is what we get. So we've been trying to fix that, and now we are here with all of you with quite the show ahead of us. I'm doing a debate here in Nashville, and later I'll reference to you who's one of the people I'm debating. It just might shock you, okay? It's going to be pretty darn crazy. How are things looking, Jaden, so far? So far, so good. Cole's not here with us, so we have a childhood photo of him. But again, whatever moments you get of this show that aren't interrupted by connection issues or some other issue, is maybe housekeeping will knock on the door is a blessing. So again, I appreciate you being here, whether you're watching it live in a segment later or the full show back. Here we go. Last night, there were major primary elections across the country, and I want to start with an election that Trump just might have created his own nightmare in relation to. His pressure, his attacks against CBS, his censorship of the media, threatening outlets with his FCC, contributed to the CBS execs and legal team going to Stephen Colbert and going, we don't know if you should interview James Tallarico. We're worried that they're going to use that for the equal time rule to come after us, despite that being something that you give talk shows like this an exemption on for decades. And that caused more people than ever before to be supportive of James Tallarico, the candidate that the Trump world and Republicans least wanted. Here's James and I do take credit for the win. I do. No, I do. Because I said to him, I grabbed him like this by his face, and I said, win this, JT, what I call him. And he said, Louie, I will. And it was never really the same after that. So much love to Jasmine Crockett as well. She's encouraged people to rally around this candidate. My excitement is not any glee that Crockett was defeated, but that it seems that there's something special happening in Texas with the turnout. So people voting for Crockett and Tallarico, regardless, Democratic turnout was mind-blowing. Now, before we get to that, you can take that down, Jaden. Before we get to that, I do want to show you Joe Scarborough breaking down how Trump messing around with media outlets actually gave an extra spotlight that probably tipped the election for Tallarico, which reportedly behind the scenes is the candidate that Republicans in Texas are terrified to go up against.
Well, John, and I'm so glad that you brought up what happened with Colbert. Here's yet another example. I swear, I just wish these Republicans weren't so stupid. I wish they'd listen to me. I'm trying to help them out a little bit here just to make it a fair fight in the fall. But what did we say? What did we say, first of all, when they took Colbert off the air? You're going to pay for it. They did pay for it with South Park 3 or 4 days later, deciding they're going to lean in even harder, right? And so here they try to keep Tallarico off the show. What happens? They give him a boost. If you talk to Jasmine Crockett, she'll say the same thing. I was ahead until that controversy. So the very person they were trying to defeat, the very person whose message scared them, is the very person who they helped win this race. It just keeps happening over and over. They think they can game the system. They think that somehow they're going to be able to win. In the end, voters have the final say.
And there were so many elements to this that just was an epic shooting of one's foot. And that's Trump doing the Streisand effect, creating far more attention, and then that feeling of, wait, why is it obvious that they don't want Tallarico? That's going to actually make a lot of Democratic voters more supportive of him. And with love to both the candidates, I think what we're seeing, especially because the turnout numbers I'm about to show you, is a real chance for Texas to go blue in this Senate race, which, if you're not familiar, would be pigs flying. That would be unbelievable. That would shift gravitationally, foundationally, systemically, seismically tectonically the political makeup and power structure in the country. And Tallarico is a really great candidate and has a message that I think is resonating with people across political lines. Again, because of me, because of my advice to him, is what a lot of the New York Times was calling me up and saying, how did you do this? You talked to him for 30 seconds and he won? Must have been you. And I'm just worried for whoever on the other end, Cornyn and Paxton, are going to a runoff, which means they're going to have to fight longer while Democrats unite. So they're going to have to continue, Paxton cheated and he had sex with a, animal. Not really, but there's all these scandals. And that's going to be happening while Democrats are uniting around Tallarico. And this would, again, be an unbelievable shift in national politics if Texas went blue in this state. And then finally, I've been hoping for it. Beto calling all red. There were little moments where you thought maybe it could happen. But every time we came up short. And Texas, I know, I live here. Or I'm not here now, but I do live there in Texas. And for so long, I would say, liberals are ascendant here. And someone would say, hey, brother, I don't think you're from around here. And I'd say, I am. I was born here, ugh. And they would go, check the scoreboard, brother. And I just need to look at one of those guys. I want to go fishing. I'm going to go fishing with one. I have the guy in my head. And I'm going to crack open a brew. And I'm going to say, I love you. But check the scoreboard, bitch. If we can win this, I'd be crying just for a day. Enjoy. And the power of Texas is pretty darn significant. Look at this voter turnout. And then we'll talk about some other primaries.
I would say the word to describe it for Democrats, tremendous turnout. I mean, woof. Texas Democratic Senate primary turnout, the highest ever was this primary. We're already up to 2.3 million, and that's only with 92% of the estimated voting. That will climb ever higher. The 2000s average was less than a million. They've more than doubled the average turnout for Texas Senate Democratic primaries. The Democrats came out and voted. This beats the old record, which was...
What is this called? There's a technical term for when this happens. Is it democracy maxing? No, democracy mogging. That's what's happening here. Okay, Jaden, that's what's happening here. It's not a joke. You think it's funny? It's not a joke. This is real. This is energy.
2.2 million, and that was in a presidential primary year between Obama and Clinton, and this beat it. Democrats really enthusiastic. As I said, the word to describe this is tremendous.
I can't even believe it beat 2008.
As a side note, whenever I walk into a room with some nice crocodile, I don't even know if this is snakeskin boots, this is the noise that people say in Texas to me.
Texas.
Wait, no, I messed it up. This is it.
Tremendous turnout. I mean,
this is it. I walk in and I go, and you hear, and I walk in and I push open the doors and I go, this is my state, MFers too. And then this is their reaction.
Woof.
That's their reaction. And I go, woof indeed. And put your collar on because I'm going to dog walk you. Or something. So that's exciting, record breaking. I think there's a lot of energy in Texas, which is indicative of the national energy. We can't talk about every race that happened last night, but let's touch on some notable ones. Republican Dan Crenshaw, who's a big Trump guy, but for some reason, and I can't even remember when this started, but he collapsed in favorability among the MAGA base, even though he completely supports and votes with Trump and defends what Trump is doing. Right now, he's rah about the war, and he, for some reason, was chewed up and spit out by the MAGA base, and he lost his primary in a pretty crazy upset. CBS reporting Republican Representative Dan Crenshaw has lost the GOP primary race in Texas' 2nd congressional district to Texas State Representative Steve Doth. And listen, I'm sure that Steve doth bad. I'm sure he is. Okay, I'm not even saying this is an upgrade. But what's notable is that tonight I'll be debating Dan Crenshaw. What? What is happening? That's just the facts. And I feel... I really hope this doesn't go poorly after what I'm about to say. I feel bad for him. I do. I respect the hell out of his service. Genuinely. Like, really, really appreciate he is a Navy SEAL. Incredible bravery and courage. And that training did not prepare him for me. Okay? So how's the connection, Jaden? Good so far? Everything good? All right. I can't believe we're doing this in this hotel. It's very exciting. Yeah, I don't think he's prepared. No, I'm kidding. I'm just going to be my same little goofy self. Who knows? Crenshaw, who has served in the House since 2019, is the only sitting House Republican in Texas who did not receive President Trump's endorsement. I think his downfall all started, I don't have the videos, but with those campaign ads he'd make, and it would be like, it would be themed as some sort of action thriller, and he'd be like getting in a plane and then skydiving, and then he'd be like, we have to go do this operation, winning Georgia, and then he'd be like, we got good patriots, now we're going, like creating this action where he's like James Bond, but for supporting Loeffler. That's kind of it's like, oh, there's a new action film out, oh, interesting, oh, starring Dan Crenshaw, oh, fascinating. What's like the goal of this James Bond type figure? Oh, Kelly Loeffler winning? That's kind of a weird climax, but okay. So we will be debating about the Iran war mostly tonight, and that should be fascinating. I'll obviously cover that once it happens. That's why I'm in Nashville, and also Michael Knowles, but obviously we know who the two alphas are who are going to be going at each other all night long, and it ain't Michael Knowles. Okay, so let's just put that... I'm in a goofy mood right now. We got in late last night. I'm a little bit delirious. It's the best type of shows. Then do you remember this candidate, Valentina Gomez, who's an insane extremist and would post campaign, Jaden, you could choose, would post campaign ads like this?
Your daughters will be raped and your sons beheaded unless we...
So what she's about to say is heinous. And that's quite a hook, okay? Starting with your sons will be beheaded and your daughter's raped, you're like, what? Well, now I have to listen. But then you hear her message and you're like, oh, disgusting. Oh, shoot. Sorry, here we go.
Your daughters will be raped and your sons beheaded unless we stop Islam once and for all. We're done turning the other cheek. Remember, David didn't pray for Goliath.
So that's pretty gross. And then you have this.
It's that simple. Public execution. It's that simple. Public executions for any illegal that rapes or kills an American. They don't deserve deportation. They deserve to be ended.
So anyways, she kind of thought she was tough, a tough guy, but girl, tough gal, and a badass. And she lost and only received 10% of the vote. Oof. Or woof, as Harry Enton would put it. And maybe, well, I guess just we're talking about Texas. This was Texas's 31st congressional district. Did I get my facts all distorted saying nationally? We definitely got Texas primary updates. That's what obviously I'm going through here. She lost. That's good news in her primary, but if you were to believe her, it was stolen. It's just one playbook. Gomez says, I have video evidence that my election has been rigged to benefit 84-year-old Congressman John Carter. I put extra ballots in my name. If I publish this video, they will send me to prison because it involves the voting machines. So there it goes again. She's claiming that her election was rigged. Shocker. Absolute shocker. Let's move to this now. The state of the Trump base is so dilapidated and collapsing that even someone like Alex Jones, who was the biggest supporter of Trump for a very long time. Are you sending those to? There we go. Even he is admitting he can't support it anymore. And this isn't actually the video that I'm going to show you, but this was his vibe about the state of things right now.
We're going to beat these people. I'm not trying to be dramatic here, but it's been a hard fight. These people hate our children.
Well, Trump does. That's fair, but that's not who we were talking about there. Now he does this sort of therapy session with white nationalist Nick Fuentes. So both of these people became famous, well, except for Alex, I guess, but both of them were very famous for supporting Trump. And now both of them can't hold on to that support anymore. And watch, it gets pretty emotional.
And I'm watching it sink by its own doing. And so this is horrifying. And so, but I can't sign on to covering up Epstein. I can't sign on to World War III. And so that's why I tried to promote the optimism, because I fucking need this, man.
Aww.
Like, I want to fix the country. I want to turn it around. So it's not that I was delusional. I still hope we can turn it around, but I just, sorry, go ahead. You get what I'm saying?
I get it. And listen, like I said, I don't think that everybody that supported Trump was being dismissive about these concerns. I get it. You know, we all wanted to believe. I was 18 years old when Trump ran in 2016. And I remember getting in fights with people. This is my whole life, too. At 18 years old, I wore the MAGA hat at Boston University, one of the most liberal campuses in the country, and became a pariah on my college campus.
Something you sacrificed. It's sad to see something you fought and bled for die.
Yeah, and, that's my whole adult life. I know that's a huge...
So when was this bleeding, Alex? When were you bleeding for Trump's campaign? That's kind of concerning. I was so nervous before Election Day, I was pooping blood. Do you know what it's like? Do you know what it's like to want someone to get elected so bad you're peeing blood? You're peeing and you're pooping blood. I'm a man. I don't have periods, but blood was coming out of me. Do you know what's that like? I love when they act like that. Someone that I fought and bled for. You talked on a talk show. Okay, let's calm down for a second there, big boy. All right, let's take it down a notch.
Huge part of your life also, and now we're witnessing it's totally unraveling. It's an utter and complete betrayal. It's heartbreaking in many ways.
And when I try to salvage it with people, I get attacked as a liberal, which is when these people doing that can't even find Iran on a fucking map.
Well, you can't blame them for that, because Iran is not a place. Iran is. Iran is you saying in the past tense that you run. That you went running. Okay, sorry. I'm going to keep it. I'm going to keep bringing that up. It's not Iran.
Yeah, well, what's called for is for us to be sober-minded about the entire thing, because there's a lot of Trump haters.
I've been a realist the whole time, but was hoping, and now I'm just not even hoping. I'm just going to be a realist.
Yeah, and really, it's okay to have hope. We hope for a better future, but we got to be brutally honest about what this administration has become.
Yeah, and is that crazy? You got Alex Jones, who thought Trump was the warrior to dismantle the globalist deep state. And then you have Nick Fuentes, who kind of his spiral into white nationalism, Nazism, which now he apparently got into the club of Nazism and realized everyone sucks. And so now he's like, that's not me anymore. Wait, this is actually him. Did you guys think that I actually liked Hitler because I said he was awesome? I was being ironic, but a lot of you around me seem like you actually do like him. That's weird. Now Stalin. But even he who's kind of collapse into his ideology started with him putting on a MAGA hat, and then he felt persecuted for it, and then he said, well, if you don't like me being this radical, I'll be even more radical, and then if you don't like me being that radical, and then if no girls will sleep with me if no girls will sleep on me, then I'll go even more radical. And those two are we're on a sinking ship, and it's very, very sad. So that's pretty notable. I'm going to show you in a second here another clip of them continuing this therapeutic, emotional session about the collapse of their movement. But first, Nick Fuentes is one of these people like Clavicular who is now arguing they will have to support, despite their extreme right-wing ideas, Newsom over JD Vance, if that's the pair, because Newsom quote-unquote mogs JD Vance. So because, to simplify it, because Newsom is hotter than JD Vance, you have a bunch of people who formerly were like deep state conspiracy theorists, QAnon adjacent, white nationalist, now going, I guess we have to support Newsom because he's hotter, leading to videos like this.
Did you see the clavicular clip of you? I'm saying that you mobbed JD Vance.
So podcast listeners, that was comparing the physique and face of Gavin Newsom, governor of California, to JD Vance, the vice president, including an AI altered JD Vance face. So it's not even liberals making a lot of those edits. It's like groypers, right-wing extremists who just think that how, I guess, like aroused they get when they see Gavin Newsom is the determining factor for them. That's how in disarray this movement is now people are going, you know what? We failed at making this some extreme MAGA movement, so now we give up and we'll just make pro-Newsom edits. Like, that's a crazy play. That wasn't on my bingo card of how this MAGA movement would collapse. Here's more.
Like, I can ignore some stuff and hold my nose with Trump, but quickly, by the hour, I morally cannot be part of this. You're already there saying vote Democrat. I get you're saying that as a carrot and the stick, but what the hell's going on here?
I think you have to. I think you have to vote Democrat in 26, and I'll tell you why.
What? What world are we in? This is crazy. You got to vote Democrat, Fuentes says. Here's one of the realizations I think they're having. Regardless of the racism from someone like Nick Fuentes or how he feels like his advocacy is supposed to be for white Americans exclusively, you still have some of them going, all right, they still believe that in a sense, but then they compare, when Republicans are in power, as we're seeing under Trump, they seem to just work really hard to funnel wealth to the richest people. And say what you will about Democrats liking diversity or doing DEI, like whatever the talking point is, the track record of doing things that benefit working class Americans of all racial groups is way better. Not where I want it to be, but way better. And so then if you're a Fuentes and you go, if I'm trying to do like a white working class advocacy and I leverage a lot of racism to do that, where do I go when one of the parties is more racist, but the other party is more pro-working class? Do you pick the racism, which is really just some red meat they throw at you? Or do you pick substantive policy that uplifts all working class Americans across racial lines? And some of them are starting to go, maybe we prioritize the stuff that actually affects our life as opposed to just racist dog whistling. Interesting.
I mean, we're being told always that the Republicans are the lesser of two evils, that, they're going to be marginally better than the Democrats. Look at all of the broken promises. Epstein files, that's huge. It's huge. And let's be honest, they tried to cover it up. It's not like they fumbled that. It's not like they made a mistake. They engaged in an active cover-up, and they failed only because of a revolt within their own party. And now Marjorie Greene is an outcast. She was like the MAGA congresswoman. She was like the one in Congress who came after Trump won the election. She's an outcast because she led the coup to get the Epstein files released. That's a big one. Then you got the deportations. They haven't started on the border wall. And even though they secured the border, look, they secured the border in 2020. What good did that do when Joe Biden came into power? Nothing, because then he just overturned all the executive orders and they came pouring in. That's why you need the wall. They haven't started it. 230,000 deportations. It isn't happening. And now we're in a regime change war with Iran. You've been around. I've been around not as long as you, but for some time. regime change in Iran is like synonymous with the neocons' ultimate master plan. That is like the number one thing on Israel's wish list.
On the crown. It was the whole Middle East strategy in the Rebuilding America's Defenses PDAC plan 2020 or 2000 was this.
He is so disoriented. He is so... And then after he's trying to think of a question, he's like, this is all just going to hell. And then he's like, what the hell's going on? That's what he can think to ask me. What the hell's going on? And then he just puts his hand in his face. His face is in his hand. Face in his hand. Afterwards, very disoriented. And you might be thinking, Luke, you seem a little giddy. That's a little rude of you. Yeah. What am I... People like Alex have characterized liberals in like the most heinous way possible. I'm walking around here like, hey, we should get healthcare to more people. Hey, maybe instead of demonizing 1% marginalized groups, we should focus on the 1% wealthiest Americans and how we could properly harness that wealth for beneficial social programs that prevent people's bottom standard of living from being bad, give them a chance at a decent life, provides economic opportunities for them. Hey, what if we, for the first time in a really long time, increase the minimum wage federally? Okay, you know, hey, and then they're like, you're a groomer, you want to let Bill Gates force you to all eat bugs. And so, no, yeah, I am kind of happy. I am kind of happy that they're realizing that their movement was a fraud. It was a fraud. It was a lie. It was based on a lie. You elected the guy whose whole record in his life is serving himself, and you really thought he was going to be your warrior? No, I can't. At some point, if I'm going to treat you like an adult, I had to treat you like an adult. I can't apologize for the fact that you couldn't see through the fraud that was Trumpism. Now, in some ways, they're upset because he's not doing enough of the bad things. Like you heard, Fuentes would want him to be even more aggressive in the violation of rights for the sake of grabbing up immigrants. But in other ways, like on the Epstein files, they're being disillusioned for the same reasons that we saw coming. And that is very notable. All right, again, thank you all so much for being here. We have more to talk about, but I do want to check in on the audience. You have C. Page gifting a membership. You have Natural Born Keeler, who's been a member for 8 months, saying, turn Texas blue, keep it up, Luke. I'll do it. I got it. Natural Born Keeler also sent a gifted membership. Memento Inferis sent 10 gifted memberships. Wowza. Woof. G.D. Jensen said, another Canadian here, grateful for the honesty and reality check. Also, can you please stop using the term mogging? Just let that linguistic blasphemy die. You don't want me to say mogging. Some people said that they didn't want me to say moist. So mogging and moist. Moist mogging is what I need to get away from. Moist mogging, is that what it is? It? Which one do you... You get it. Nikki Hunter became a member by clicking the join button on YouTube. I appreciate that greatly. And then Brad Stafford said, I'm in Nashville, Luke. Where are you going to be later? I'd like to drop in and see you. And Jaden, yeah, you can go. I don't know how they do it. I think you just wait outside in line. There's a place called the Redneck Riviera, right? Redneck Riviera. And the event starts at 8 p.m. And so if anyone's in Nashville and you want to see if you can hop in and get a seat and cheer for yours truly, you can, because it's going to be a bar full of only Trump supporters. So you absolutely can. Redneck Riviera, 8 p.m. tonight. Very exciting. Let's talk about this now. Piers Morgan had to broadcast some very damning videos of Trump that points to what is an indisputable, undeniable, incomprehensible too, violation of Trump's campaign promises. Even if you had supported him, which obviously I did it, but even if you were believing him, and even now if you trust him so much that you were just thinking surely he'd only bring us into war with Iran if it was absolutely necessary, and there's definitely reasons he just won't tell us, the thing you have to admit is he lied whenever he campaigned on the exact opposite than what we're seeing now with a Middle Eastern regime change war. And that's what Piers Morgan demonstrates in a devastating fashion, despite Piers Morgan cheerleading Trump into office.
prevents war and suffering in the future. What none of the advocates for attacking Iran can argue with a straight face is that Trump campaigned on war with Iran. He didn't. In fact, it was, of course, explicitly the opposite.
In addition, there must also be a complete commitment to dismantling the entire globalist neocon establishment that is perpetually dragging us into endless wars, pretending to fight for freedom and democracy abroad. We should have never gone into the Middle East. We should have never gone into the Middle East. Under my leadership, we will turn the page forever on those foolish, stupid days of never-ending wars. I am the president who delivers peace. I was the first president in decades who didn't start a war. I think we would have been good with Iran. I don't want to do anything bad to Iran. Speaking of World War III, I'll keep you out of World War III. What would happen if we had a war? We won't. With me.
Well, both President Trump and Vice President Vance billed themselves as the pro-peace ticket, a message which massively expanded his election-winning coalition. Tulsi Gabbard said only Trump could prevent war with Iran, as she switched sides to join him. And J.D. Vance articulated very clearly that a war with Iran would be expensive and against his country's interests.
Israel has the right to defend itself, but America's interest is sometimes going to be distinct. Like sometimes we're going to have overlapping interests and sometimes we're going to have distinct interests. And our interest, I think, very much is in not going to war with Iran, right? It would be a huge distraction of resources. It would be massively expensive to our country.
So the obvious question is, what's changed? Is Iran more of a threat now than it was?
No, and this also is after they said with Operation Midnight Hammer, which Ben Shapiro thinks is an epic base name, like Epic Fury, that they had obliterated the threat that was supposed to have been there, despite even then us having plenty of reason to believe that they were lying about the state of Iran's nuclear program. And it is interesting to be negotiating and to be coming out of meetings negotiating, saying we're making progress, and then to launch a war. Like, wait, so were you not making progress? If it's not a threat, which it's not like an imminent, oh, they're about to get a nuclear weapon and they're about to use it, and you're in the middle of negotiations, are you just not as effective as Obama was? You want to just, maybe you admit that you have to do war because you couldn't do what Obama did with diplomacy in preventing Iran from having nuclear weapons? Well, maybe you should admit that. But it was Trump, after all, who was famously posting over and over and over again that Obama's weakness would force him to go to war with Iran because he wasn't good enough at negotiating. Now, that's not what happened with Obama, but it is what's happening with Trump. Those facts, even if you, again, found a way in your head to believe this all makes sense, and I'm sure Trump has a good plan, and this won't just cause an even more destabilized, chaotic, and dangerous and threatening to us Iran, and that they will somehow facilitate a very effective regime change that will install a more friendly regime without boots on the ground and without a bunch of casualties, even though we've already now seen the number go up to 6 American soldier heroes' lives lost. Even if you believed all of that and you're thinking, this is going to be great, how do you answer for those contradictions? That's kind of a just indisputable point. But one thing I referenced, so Ben Shapiro is really pumped about this and is supportive of it, and he called out Megyn Kelly and Tucker Carlson. So I disagree with Ben Shapiro on his stance on the war, but what he says here about how the anti-war Trump fans try to tiptoe around blaming Trump is true.
At this point, you know whose war this is? President Donald J. Trump's war. He's the president of the United States. He commands the United States military. She is such a coward. She is such an unbelievable coward. You don't like President Trump? You don't like what he's saying? Just say his name, you coward. You unbelievable coward. Tucker and Megyn both. Unbelievable cowardice. Say his name.
So that part is true, right? Ben Shapiro is saying he's for this and it's Trump's war. So then I can go, I'm against it and it's Trump's war. We can debate. We can operate with the same facts but different stances. And I can criticize, as I did. bunch yesterday, Ben Shapiro. But what these other MAGA people who are against it, some of them will do, and I credit them with speaking out, but a lot of them are cowards. And they don't want to completely abandon Trump. So they do this weird thing where they act like, oh, Trump must have been coerced into it, or someone got in his ear and pressured him too much. Instead of saying he's the president of the United States, he's directing these attacks, and he is responsible for the consequences. Now, again, as I set it up a clip before in this way, if you need more clarity on is this a war or isn't it? They're doing a very Putin-esque thing. You remember when Putin invaded Ukraine? Actually, he still does this. And instead of calling it an invasion or a war, he would call it like a special military operation. And you're like, you just started a war. It's like, no, it's a special military operation. And now the Republicans are kind of doing that, where some of them are saying war, but then they don't want to admit that because then Congress would have to approve. And so then they go, actually, it's not a war, but we justify the deaths because that's war, but it's not a war. Mark Wayne Mullen recently on TV being like, the smell, the taste of war. It's like, you've never been in a war. Why are you saying that? And now here you have him immediately contradicting himself and then saying, wait, what's the quote? That was a misspoke. That was a misspoke.
Are there measures being taken not to eliminate other possible alternatives to leadership?
This is war, and we're taking out the threat.
This is war.
And if you're part of the threat, then you have the
He just said, this is war. All right, so keep listening.
You're a target. You know, what we'd call not all the arrows, but going after the archers.
You'll concede this is war. You'll concede this is war.
We haven't declared war. They declared war on us, but we haven't.
War. Secretary Hicks said
we haven't declared.
Just now you said this is war.
They've called it war.
They've called it war. What I was saying. Okay, well that was a misspoke. What I was saying that they've declared war on us, but war is ugly. It always has been ugly. But we're taking out a regime that's been trying to attack us for quite some time.
But you're not conceding this is war.
We have declared war.
So they declared a war on us, and the casualties we're experiencing and the reasons why this is unpopular is okay because war is ugly, but we're not at war because we didn't declare war. No. I know, because Congress is supposed to declare war. Why won't you have Congress declare war? Because we haven't declared war. That's the reasoning.
Are there measures being taken not to eliminate other possible alternatives to leadership?
This is war.
Okay, I just want to play that again. This is war. Oh, sorry, that was a misspoke. Nothing like misspeaking whenever you're saying that you're misspeaking. Nothing like misspeaking when you're explaining that you just misspoke, okay? That was a misspoke. I'm going to use that. That's interesting. Then this is just sickening. Look at Pete Hegseth. All of these leaders in our administration. Again, I've made all of my arguments. I've laid out my stance. If you disagree with it, that's one thing. But if you justify language like this that we've been seeing from Trump after originally we thought it was 3 American lives have been lost, now it's up to 6. And he said that's the way it is. And then you have Pete Hegseth saying this. Please just acknowledge you can't justify this. Maybe you think the war is in our interests somehow, but you can't justify this. Him reprimanding the media for reporting prominently on American lives being lost.
This is what the fake news misses. We've taken control of Iran's airspace and waterways without boots on the ground. We control their fate. But when a few drones get through or tragic things happen, it's front page news. I get it. The press only wants to make the president look bad, but try for once to report the reality.
Think about that. After his boss said that's the way it is in response to American, and there's going to be more in response to American soldiers dying in a war he chose to start. And then his war secretary says, why would the media, instead of reporting properly on how successful we are, why would they put little accidents or little tragedies as front page news because it's front page newsworthy, because we're supposed to care a lot about whenever our sons and daughters and brothers and sisters are in harm's way. Pretty obvious, actually. And to characterize it as a couple drones get through, tragedies happen, that everyone wants to talk about them. Yeah, we do. Sickening. Really, really sickening. Tommy Vieter says, Hexa says reporting on American casualties is the fake news trying to make the president look bad. This is truly rock bottom from the most selfish, arrogant, unqualified Secretary of Defense in U.S. history. Indeed. So disturbing. Then you have Mike Johnson on this, is it a war or isn't it question, which it obviously is, which is why Trump keeps saying that.
Has attacked 3 of our U.S. embassies in the last couple of days. Okay, those are sovereign territories of the U.S. They have declared war on us. I don't believe in the semantics. We've talked about the language this morning. We're not at war right now.
What? Every time we say we don't want this, we don't want our family being put at risk or dying, our friends for this, you say, this is war. That's what happens in war. But then when we go, okay, well then why are you unconstitutionally going to war? Because Congress is supposed to do that. Then you say, well, it's not war, but they've declared war on us and they've attacked us, but we're not at war with them. It's a special military operation, says Putin. Or in this case, some of these Republican officials. Then you have Tim Burchett saying, listen, Lindsey Graham just loves bombing.
Senator Lindsey Graham is now calling for the U.S. to start bombing Lebanon in response to the Hezbollah IDF action.
Lindsey hadn't seen a fist fight he hasn't wanted to turn into a bombing raid, so I just take it with a grain of salt, dude. Yes, ma'am. That's a good quote.
And at the end, he says, that's a good quote. That was a good quote, but whenever you nail a quote, don't immediately compliment yourself for nailing the quote. That really defeats the triumph of the quote. Tim. Alrighty, let's quickly check in with the audience. Did I already say Nikki Hunter became a member? I appreciate that. Sea of Flowers. Said, hey, Luke, Jaden, and Cole's baby picture. Today's my 33rd birthday, and I'm miserable. Wish me a happy birthday. Love you guys. Why are you miserable? Don't be miserable. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you. That's a little Beasley classic version of the birthday song. You do something fun. Life's crazy, but you gotta enjoy. Life's crazy, but it'd be even crazier if you didn't enjoy it. That's my message. Happy birthday. Much love. Jeff Ross said midnight bunghole. Okay. Proud Canadian became a member by clicking the join button on YouTube. Intuition Jen sent in a super chat saying no one from the Trump administration was present to receive our dead soldiers. No one. I didn't see that. Oh my gosh. Okay, now we get on to something a little bit more lighthearted, but I guess not. Despite Trump's doctors having him take cognitive tests every other day, apparently, where he nails the what is a giraffe portion, we still have concerns. Despite that, we still have concerns. And that happens when he forgets things like where his dad was born. So I just want to remind you, sometimes Biden would go, let me introduce President Putin. And then it was like, no, you're introducing Zelensky. And he cries. Or he would say, Egypt instead of Gaza. Or he would get a name wrong. And or one time he said, like, thank you for being here to someone who had passed away. And that would be front page news, right? This would be a lot of coverage, wall to wall from the right wing. But I don't see them talking about whenever Trump does something that if Biden did, they would make a big deal out of, like forgetting where his dad was born. Not by the city, not by the state, by the country. In the wrong country.
It's a shame. It's and that country, UK, and I love that country. I love it. My mother was born there. I love it. My mother was born there. My father was born. Right? He knows all about my father. My father was born there. So, very places that you sort of automatically very feel warmly about. But the UK, what they're doing with energy and what they're doing with immigration is horrible. You have.
So I guess he was with Mr. Germany, the German chancellor, and when he said Mr. Japan, did he say that? I think he said that, right? Mr. Japan. So Mr. Germany, and he goes, he's from there, gesturing, meaning, I guess, Germany. His dad was born in New York, like pretty far away if I have my geography correct. David Packman said, today Donald Trump forgot where his father was born. Bring out the cognitive tests again. Of course, anytime there's a concern about his cognitive abilities, he takes a dementia screening test and counts backwards. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then gets 100 on it. No, I don't know. In fact, the president's father, Frederick Trump Jr., was born in the Bronx in New York City in 1905. Wow, that was a long time ago. It was his father's grandparents, Trump's grandparents, who were born in what was then the German Empire, specifically in the Kingdom of Bavaria. So that's awkward. Like, imagine I said, I'm trying to picture, I know where my parents were born. I don't want to tell you because I don't want to dox their past selves, like, obviously. But in Texas, I think. I know they were born in America, and Trump didn't know where his daddy was born. But that's okay because he's accurately recounted other stories about his family.
We appreciate you doing an amazing job. They're building plants already. And they're building plants, and they have already their permits. And I have to brag just for a second, because when I first heard about AI, it's not my thing. Although my uncle was at MIT, one of the great professors, 51 years, whatever. He was the longest serving professor in the history of MIT, 3 degrees in nuclear, chemical, and math. Yeah. That's a smart man.
You have graduated. Did he say he got the degrees or he was teaching? With a very esteemed degree. Chemical. You have chemical degree.
Kaczynski was one of his students. Do you know who Kaczynski was? There's very little difference between a madman and a genius. But Kaczynski, I said, what kind of a student was he, Uncle John, Dr. John Trump? He said, what kind of a student? Man, he said, seriously good. He said he'd go around correcting everybody, but it didn't work out too well for him. Didn't work out too well, but it's interesting in life. But I will say this, that we have the greatest brains. We have the greatest.
I always love that transition. We have the greatest brains. I'm not doing a good job of advertising that right now, but somewhere in America we have the greatest brains. And the problem with that story is that Kaczynski, the Unabomber, didn't go to MIT, and Trump's uncle died before anyone knew who the Unabomber was, so there's no way Trump and his uncle could have had a conversation about him teaching a student he didn't teach. So Trump this is called, in the looking out for cognitive decline world, or like dementia or something, confabulation, right? You create these, you believe them, but false memories. But don't worry, remember, in an interview, Trump said that his father dealt with something of the brain, but he's good. He doesn't. But what's that thing that what's the thing he had? And Caroline Levitt said Alzheimer's. So he forgot Alzheimer's while he was saying he doesn't have Alzheimer's. Awkward timing.
All right, moving further as of now, looking at global news. US President Donald Trump's health is back in focus after his niece suggested that he could be suffering from Alzheimer's. Mary Trump, who is a longtime critic of her own uncle, said that she saw flashes in him of the president's father, her grandfather, that is, Fred Trump. She said she had witnessed Fred Trump struggle with the degenerative disease before his death at the age of 93 in 1999. Speaking to New York Magazine, Mary said, sometimes Donald Trump does not seem oriented to time and place. Earlier, speaking to the outlet, the US president said that he did not care whether he had the same disease as his father. However, he appeared to forget the word Alzheimer's.
And listen, that's like a professional level whoopsie. Whenever you're saying, I don't have Alzheimer's, but you forget the word Alzheimer's. Like, and it's not to make fun of anybody. Very real topic, very serious, and a lot of emotion attached to Alzheimer's and all of it. But you do have to acknowledge when you're in an interview saying your brain's on fire, baby, and you forget the term you're looking for, and the term you're looking for has to do with your brain not being on fire. That's whoopsie. That's whoopsie is what you call it in the biz.
Prompted by his press secretary, Caroline Levitt. Donald Trump, who will turn 80 this year, has consistently maintained that his health is perfect. However, he continues to face speculation about his condition, with visuals emerging of swelling in his legs, ankles, and incidents where he...
So I don't know what station this is, but this is just something about Trump's, the lower third chyron was tickling me. Trump's niece says he may have the disease. The disease. Trump forgets the word Alzheimer's to describe father's illness. And then right before that, it was Donald Trump's health under scrutiny again. Trump says bruise result of big aspirin he takes. It's like having to put all of this in word form is strange. And I think that it reaffirms the absurdity of some of these sagas. Now, I play that for you just to remind you that's somewhat recently. And there's obviously other examples, but it's not an isolated incident where he goes, oh, my dad was born in Germany when he was not. That is the show. Before we go, let me make sure that I've checked in properly on the audience. I just have to say, set me free, sent a super chat, and I appreciate that greatly. Jaden, how was it? Through the thing? Good cover. Okay, we did it in Nashville. Despite all the problems, we did a show. Very exciting. I can't wait to cover, once they've released the episode, the debate that I'm doing tonight, where I'll be debating people, as I explained before. But much love to you all, and I'll talk to you next time.